Say hello to our good friend. He is the president and chief executive officer of the National Religious Broadcasters, Troy Miller. Troy, good to have you with us today.
Hey, Todd, good to be with you. Thank you.
So you heard a little bit of the chaos out there outside of the gates at Columbia, and I wanted to get your reaction to what's happening to these Jewish kids at university campuses across the country right now.
Well, first of all, Todd, it's pathetic and it's disgusting and it's evil. And it's really a result of what these schools have been indoctrinating these kids on. And now it's coming back to haunt them. This poor professor who just tried to get onto the campus and get to his class, and that is being harassed by anti-Semitic students. As a matter of fact, just students calling for his death. This is a problem across not just Columbia, across campuses across the country. They're starting to reap what they have sown into these kids. That there's only kind of two ideas in the world. You're either the oppressor or you're the oppressed. You are the victimizer or the victim, and somehow Israel has become the victimizer or the oppressor in this, and this has taken off across campuses. And there was a video I think you saw the other night where a student tried to get onto the campus, and these protesters made a wall, linked their arms, and wouldn't let the student on campus, and threatened the student with their life. And this is just pure evil. Well, it is, and I've been reminding people that to a much lesser extent, less violent extent, these attacks against Christian students have been going on for a very long time. And I think it's really incumbent upon Christians especially to stand up and stand alongside these young Jewish Americans as they're coming under attack. Oh, absolutely. The scripture clearly calls us to stand up for our Jewish brothers and sisters out there who are coming under attack. And as you said, for a lesser degree, there's been a lot of marginalization and argumentation with Christians across campus. Now we have full-on, conflict with Jewish students, Jewish professors, anybody who wants to step onto these campuses. But don't think, Todd, it won't be long before it rolls over to Christians, especially when they find out and they understand that Christians are the biggest supporters right now coming to Israel's aid and to support them. And I really do. You said it the best. Christians we have an obligation to stand up for our Jewish brothers and sisters. We can't let this happen again. Troy Miller is president of NRB. And Troy, I know you just got back from the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters show. One of the big concerns that I personally have is the attack on AM radio. And a part of it is somewhat selfish, since I own an AM radio station in Memphis, a news talk station. And the concern I have is that the attacks, being focused and directed at AM radio are in fact somewhat political, and I think they're targeting talk radio and religious radio, which pretty much makes up the AM dial. Oh, yeah, absolutely, Todd. The AM dial is pretty much made up by conservative talk radio and Christian teach talk radio. And the third out there is really the Spanish language radio. There's just a number of Spanish language stations across this country, and the rural folks need radio. They need AM radio. AM radio reaches a lot farther than FM does. AM has a better signal to get through storm and storm interference. When any natural disaster comes along, if you go in and grab your emergency radio, a lot of people have those. People don't realize those are tuned to AM frequencies to let you know what's going on. And so you have to wonder why these car manufacturers, especially when the government accounting office came out and said, yeah, we did an audit, and it's really not about the cost of the part that needs to go in there to shield it from interference with the electric vehicles in there. It's really, that's a minuscule cost to these manufacturers. So two things I think that are behind it. One, as you said, there's a push to get AM radio off, to get all of conservative talk off the dials. The second push behind it is who's going to control access to information. So there's this thing called the connected car. And so they would like you to have this connected car, and then you have to subscribe who they feel are worthy to be in the car, and really just get rid of the free AM radio altogether.
And I'll just give folks a quick example of how important AM radio can be. Here in Memphis, there was a big mass shooting over the weekend. City Hall literally shut down the ability to comment on any of their social media platforms. They literally shut it down. The local newspaper is a nonprofit, and it's run in cahoots with the taxpayer-funded, PBS station and NPR station. They even shut down comments on their sites. The only place where people were able to engage in conversation and debate about what happened was KWAM radio. So it really is an important piece of getting news and information out to folks, especially when the government can come in just willy-nilly and shut down, free speech.
Right, and the social media companies can do the same thing. They can just arbitrarily shut down that free speech. The government can shut down that free speech. That's why free over-the-air radio is so important to this country, and especially AM, because so many people depend on that. That's where they go to at times of these disasters or incidents like happened in Memphis. So it's important that we have a choice as citizens, as users out there, that we have a choice. We're not forced to make a choice by these car manufacturers or make a choice by the government. We have to have that choice on our own. If we don't have free over-the-air broadcasting, those choices go away.
And again, this is why I know NRB has been supporting the AM for Every Vehicle Act. This is all about protecting AM in the dash. How are those efforts going, Troy?
They're going very well. Actually, in the Senate, we're rapidly approaching 60 co-sponsors for the bill that's moving through the Senate. That would make it filibuster-proof when it goes to the floor for a vote. The House Energy and Commerce Committee will hold a second hearing on AM radio in the dash on April 30th. So it's important for those of you out there that listen to AM radio, depend on AM radio, like your AM radio, and to have a free choice to listen what you would like to listen to pick up the phone and call your congressman and tell them you want to keep AM radio in the dash of cars across this country. You want that to be an option that you can have when you purchase your new vehicle.
Well, I think it's a terrific thing, and it really is all hands on deck. I'm on the board at the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and I know we've been doing a lot of lobbying in Washington, and we just really appreciate the great work you guys are doing at NRB to stand alongside AM radio folk.
Well, look, like you said, it's important. People don't realize that radio is not just about getting information. These AM radio stations are also vital to their communities to get local information and community information out, as well as the number of things that they do that come alongside the communities in natural disasters or times like this. I guarantee you, with that mass shooting in Memphis, there was a group of local pastors and Christian organizations that came in right away to provide the emotional and counseling support that those people needed. And that's because local radio is plugged into the community. These folks that just plug in their apps into the dash, they're not going to be plugged in to the community like you guys are. Local broadcasters are important, and we're fighting hard for them and for the rights of the listeners to be able to have that kind of service.
That's it. All right. Well, Troy, we have to leave it there. Appreciate all the great work you guys are doing at NRB.
Thank you, Todd.
All right. Troy Miller, everybody, President and CEO of National Religious Broadcasters.